I'm going to talk about fatigue and middle level problem of mental health called bipolar disorder. You may well have heard of it. We'll work there. We're in the realm of stress and anxiety. And then beyond stress and anxiety, there are bigger degrees such as worry and panic, and then delirium beyond that. When we do an exercise, or whatever exercise it is, or an activity, be work, or even such as drawing, or reading, we can do it for a period of time, and after that we can feel tired. It's part of our natural cycle of the body. Our body has a period of activity, and it needs a period of rest, of downtime. But when fatigue manifests itself in our lives and we feel fatigued generally, not necessarily attached to a specific activity such as walking up a hill, it can cause us depression, it can cause us agitation, and it can perpetuate a cycle of anxiety. And anxiety then going to become panic, and panic can then further go into serious delirium, terror. So they're called mental disorders, and the opposite of a mental disorder would be an order. So we're talking about a balance. When we say a mental order, it's the opposite, the antonym of a mental disorder. We're going to use some words, and of course my podcasts are about giving you instruments and tools to either conceptualize and understand, or to implement yourself if you are the person that is suffering from anxiety and fatigue and depression. Really debilitating and terrible. So we in our bodies have something called homeostasis. And stasis means stable, static, to stand. All the root of the word stasis, a Greek word, is in kind of stand, stay, stick, stasis, stable. So when we're talking about homeostasis, we're talking about our body's ability to regulate itself, to return to an equilibrium. And everyone in our bodies has an ability to return to an order. The body is functioning, and the parts of your body, the parts of your mind, are functioning in an order, a healthy order. Sometimes we don't need to be in a healthy order. When we're fighting a war, dealing with an emergency, our natural order is broken. We need to override. We override, reservation, anxiety. We override that. And I'll show at the end of this podcast that actually some anxiety and some preoccupation and some, over-enthusiasm and bursts of energy is actually very healthy to do. It's healthy to have high energy bursts, and depending on the time and place. But when fatigue becomes a burden, it becomes undesired, become dragged down by depression. By depression, I simply mean something that is depressed. Remember, with your finger, you can impress somebody, but to depress, like, say, you may know the word of depression. A depression is when something goes down. Something is called depressed. Imagine a loaf of bread or a ball of dough, if you know what dough is. And if you push your finger in the bread hard, remove your finger, there is a curve or a dent. It's called a depression. And in our mind, our body can also feel that we are depressed. So with homeostasis, our body naturally tries to find its way back to a basic comfort zone. That's why we have cycles of work, rest, activity, work, rest, activity, activity, and reaching to a rest. If you like, simply, when we breathe in, the air that's in our body then is absorbed and transferred, and we breathe out. We breathe in oxygen and we exhale carbon dioxide. So there are these rhythms going on, and in between you have a balance. So sometimes it's good to exert yourself, do an exercise to be out of breath, so that you break that, that pattern, and you come out of breath. Then your body returns to a stable breathing in and out. Then you've returned to a healthy place in your breathing pattern. The heart also has a rhythm, and these rhythms going on all around the universe, cyclical rhythms. But when we're out of that, we have a disorder. It's a funny word, but it basically means that we're out of sync with ourselves and the world that we live in, and indeed our environment that we actually occupy. Think of where you live, your own spaces, your workplace, your social activities, where you are. So there are degrees of being out of sync. And bipolar is in the middle of the two poles. So we have anxiety, then we have the ability to focus on particular thoughts. We have an anxiety disorder where we lose our ability just to focus on simple things, complete simple tasks, because we have anxiety and worry. And then after that, then you will have, it's called a nervous disorder, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Attention deficit disorder is a simple way. Well, we can't really focus on where we are. We're worried about something, preoccupied. Then we would have a degree of panic, and panic, then we'll talk about cyclothymia. What? You might say, cyclo who? I did the same. Cyclo means to cycle, to go round in a cycle. Like a bicycle, two wheels go round. A cyclone, like a hurricane, the wind goes round and round. A cyclone, your washing machine, has a cycle. And so cyclothymia, thymia means emotion. So what it means is your emotions are spinning round and round. Maybe like a piece of some clothes in your washing machine. They're spinning and spinning, and your mind starts to spin, and that spinning can cause anxiety and stress, because you may be aware of your conscious mind, i.e. the mind that it's called your somatic nervous system, that you control with your body. But of course there's lots of things going in your body which are part of your autonomic nervous system, and they are going on, such as you don't consciously control the beating of your heart, you don't consciously control your digestion, you don't consciously determine your sexual arousal, and you also don't control the breathing. These are things that go on in the background amongst many other things. So there is a part of our body where we control consciously, and there is a part of our nervous system and body functions that are controlled, the autonomic nervous system. So we then go beyond this worry and this disassociation of thoughts, we go on, there is the next level up, which is bipolar disorder. So we have an anxiety disorder, attention deficit disorder, and then in the third rung, it's called a bipolar disorder. Disorder because your body's out of a natural order. You've got the cycle of thoughts and things. You just become uncomfortable, unhappy, with situations. So bipolar means two. You have bi is the Latin word for two, and the Greek word is die. So, for example, bicycle is 2 cycles, and bicentenary is twice a year. Anything with bi in it means 2, but it comes from the Latin. And then other words like dichotomy, 2, going away. The di bit in the front of the word comes from the Greek, which is where a lot of words in health and in the English language come from the Greek words. And I think 6% of words in the English language are derived from Greek. Have a Greek origin. 33 have a percent have a Latin origin. So when we're talking about bipolar disorder, we're talking about 2 poles. And what are these 2 poles? Think of like the Atlantic, the Antarctic is the North Pole, and the Antarctic, the opposite, the anti of the North Pole is the Antarctic. They have 2 poles, the North and the South Pole. So this is a common representation of bipolar disorder. You have a happy state represented by this mask, and then you have a sad state. I'd be happy sometimes and I'm sometimes sad. That's a basic part of life, it is. But when we're talking about, we swing from an overzealous, a manic part. Now, mania means that we get carried away with ourselves, carried with the event, we overdo things, and as a consequence, we frazzle our nervous system, including our neurological mind. So basically, a symbol of an happier side, of the happier face, would be things called euphoria. Euphoria means over-keen, overexcited, over-addictive, over-drinking, overtaking drugs, overdoing something. And you can feel on top of the world for so long and you burn it out. And then your body has to go into homeostasis. It needs to recalibrate itself. It needs to re-stabilize itself. And then it will swing back down into depression, fear, anxiety, anger, impatience, intolerance. And that can also affect our appetite, our relations. So we deal with people, we don't make decisions as well as we want to. We generally lack motivation, we lack interest in things because our body is just trying to turn itself off. And so you go from a manic high to a manic low. One pole, i.e. one area is the manic high, and then the lower is the manic low. And when we're in the low, it's when fatigue and exhaustion comes in. The problem with fatigue and exhaustion is that when we need to make simple decisions, when we need to, exercise a bit or complete activities, we lack the motivation, the interest, the will. So when you hear the word bipolar, just think of it as a North Pole and a South Pole, 2 different parts, okay? 2 poles. So I'm using this to show you, as we talked about, to show you homeostasis. We are balanced. It's a balance, our body balances itself. Remember? Breathe in, you breathe out. Breathing exercises, just quickly, breathing exercise, you calm your breath. You breathe in, take a deep breath in, a deep breath out, okay? And then slowly, if you do breathing exercises, you can balance your breathing, and the breathing affects so much of your body. But when it swings out the other way, it swings up with a manic euphoria, and when it falls down the other way, swings that way, then you're going to get dragged down by the depression. So we're trying to find a middle way while we're dealing with this problem, this disorder. But why they say disorder, mental health disorder, what one means is your natural rhythms and body clock are out of sync, so you're not functioning the way you should. So the natural balance that goes on in the world. So here, the yin yang symbol, or the I Ching symbol if you prefer, you see there's this rhythm. Day becomes night and night becomes day, and you can't have night without day. So there's the night and there's the day, and there's the day and there's the night. They're interwoven. There's a duality going on. There are many dual things, such as hot and cold, dark and light, male and female, good and bad, virtuous and vicious, vice. You got a virtue is a good thing, and a vice is to normal people a bad thing. You have virtue and vice, two opposite qualities. So there's this cycle pattern. Okay, and of course remember that we are divided into two parts. We have two eyes, two parts of everything in our brain. So there's two lobes on one other side, two arms, two fingers. A lot of our bodies is enables this to be coordinated, means to coordinate two different parts. So it's good to have duality in the world. But we're talking about bipolar, we're talking about this out of function. Beyond that, and you have post-traumatic stress disorder. It's when you've been in, or you find yourself in, a situation where you're stressed, your nervous system is so stressed out that imprints itself in your memory, in your temporal lobe. There is something in your brain, in your mind, in your head, called the hippocampus. And hippocampus is all to do with memory retrieval, memory storage, and it works with the temporal lobe. And the temporal lobe is responsible for your memory, your short and your long-term memory. And what happens with trauma is that it so impresses itself, we're talking about impresses yourself into you, that it embeds itself in your inner mind. So, for example, fear. Something I've done can trigger a mad memory. You've got to work out how to turn that mechanism off. Cover this more in another podcast. So, when we have post-traumatic stress, post means after, okay? Trauma means something that you've been traumatized by something, scared, worried, or you've seen things that are so psychologically tough. A dead person, maybe. Someone you love die. You question life. A car crash, something it's really shocked your nervous system so much that you've gone into a place where it's imprinted It's part of your psyche. We're identifying these things, and then we're going to then look at ways and means and instruments to work with these and turn depression into a more balanced happiness. So to take us out of fatigue into an energetic place where we have energy, a lovely old Greek word, energy. We have inertia, we have the ability to consider, reflect, and make good decisions, or to engage in constructive thoughts rather than destructive thoughts. Stress, anxiety, worry are often usually destructive. They damage our ability to function as a happy, normal person. So, beyond bipolar disorder, we have post-stress, traumatic stress, a disorder. We're shaken up. Beyond that, you have hypomania. Hypomania can also be considered below, it actually really lies below trauma, serious trauma, such as post-traumatic stress. Hypomania is when you develop patterns of behavior which are very over the top. They call you burnout, and then you compensate with a heavy burnout. These episodes can go on for hours, days, and then months, and even longer, for years. So you can have a high of a couple of years and then experience a feeling of low for months and years. You see, these episodes, they're called episodes, which is basically an interval of time for how long they run for. Really undesirable. So hypomania is like a mild mania. Mania means manic, okay? Not in a good way. And then beyond that you have hypermania. Hypomania with an O means under mania, and hyper means over mania. Imagine I have a glass of water here. I'm pouring water into the glass and it fills up till it reaches the full brim. There comes a point, if I keep on pouring water in the glass, the water will then fall over, cascade over the top of the glass. The glass is full. So think of the rising up, the hypomania, and when it breaks over the hypermania, when you've gone beyond the state of the hypomania into a beyond state, which is what the word hyper means. So hypermania is confounded with disorientation, confusion. Delusion is another word. We'll go confusion, frazzled, anxious, aggressive, scared. So it's called hyper, i.e. beyond mania. You're going, restless. You can't sit still. You're just twitching. You find ways to express that. You may turn to drugs. You may turn to alcohol. You may see that I have some whiskey there. It's called brandy, actually. I've got brandy there. Turn to drink. You overdo it. You find ways to get out of the pain. You find ways to escape where you are. The present now. Beyond hypomania, you have psychosis. Psychosis is like this. It's like when your mind, your subconscious mind, drives your personality, so you lose your basic sense of reality with the world around you and also yourself. You become you're living a reflection of who you really are. So you're caught in another identity. It's weird, but it happens. And so your mind loses its if imagine your mind, your will is a fish in a fish bowl. The fish then is transported out of the fish bowl and looking into the fish bowl. You can go into being, mad, crazy. So when I'm talking about psychosis, we're talking about states where you transcend the world around you, but not in a good way, not in a contemplative, meditative, transcendent way, but you break out. Your mind can't rationally compute or deal with the signals that it's receiving. Your touch, your hearing, your smell, your hearing, your touch, your taste, your sight. Your body becomes disorientated, and you become disorientated, or people become disorientated. Psychosis, it's one level above hypermania. But hypermania, this frenzied activity, this constant, do that and that, and you get so brought up that finally you start to break up. Imagine your mind is a ship. The ship is going through the sea. A storm comes, washed with wind and rain, and it's a wooden boat, and bit by bit as the boat starts to break up and break up by the storm. So these storms of energy can actually cause your basic self, your vehicle of yourself, to be broken up. Imagine I have here a jigsaw which represents yourself. Now you have a jigsaw, everything is in order. Imagine the jigsaw falls on the ground. I pick up the pieces and I put them all quickly back, but in the wrong place. That's what happens with psychosis. The bits and pieces of your basic functioning of your mind are misplaced. They get put in different places, so you become a tapestry of confusion. So beyond psychosis, there is something worse. Now let's go back into where we are. We're talking about fatigue and depression. When our body and our mind and our activities and our life is in order, we're in a part of the natural rhythm, the circadian rhythms, the rhythms of the universe. Remember, the universe has rhythm. The moon goes round the earth and the moon go round the sun. There's cycles, seasons. You have winter, spring, summer, and autumn. And there are natural rhythms, birth and death. But when you lose your connection with these harmonious rhythms, you become inharmonious. Your body, your homeostatic part of you, is unable to put yourself back to that balance that we were talking about earlier on. When you have actually experienced this fatigue, or know someone that's experiencing fatigue, to be aware there's a lot going on. Now, what to do? There's another illustration of the duality of, you can have the bipolar there, the euphoria, the highs, and then the lows, the duality of life. And then we have the Ouroboros, a symbol from Iran. Basically, you get trapped up in these cycles, perpetual cycles of just self-destruction. Your body can't cope. So you're eating your own tail, which is a symbol of the Ouroboros, if you prefer. You're caught in a perpetual cycle of delusion, of illusion, and that causes delusion. They use this to demonstrate, to illustrate bipolar disorder, when you get caught up in the cycles. It's a powerful image. So by being aware of these terms, we're able to kind of break down what people are talking about. You know, when they talk about bipolar disorder, fatigue, anxiety, stress, trauma, anxiety, it helps. And then one that is really interesting is the cyclothymia, cycles. And thymia means your emotions, your mind. When your emotions start going round and round and you get, you know, disorientated. Now, ways to deal with this is we need to find a way to restore the basic balance, okay? You've got to try to understand that there are things that you're doing or someone you know are doing that are self-destructive. You have to reach a point where you've had enough. Now, the good thing is that there is a way forward. There is a way out of this cage. There is a way to deal with this, which doesn't necessarily involve being given drugs with all sorts of funny names. Find a purpose. It doesn't matter what it is. Each day, do something meaningful and put your energy in, and then say, I did that, I can do that. But we've got to go back to basics. Make your bed. Tidy your room. Or untidy your room. Get out things that mean something to you. Put them on your bed and consider the things that you have in your life. Go back to basics. This is quite complex, but what we can do is we can recall happy times. We can visualize where we would like to be with ourselves. We can read a book that we like. We can eat some food that we really like. We can treat ourselves, because we're not here to punish yourself. We're here to awaken your wonderful self. So if there's a film you like to watch, you haven't watched it for a while, watch it. If there is someone you'd like to call that you haven't called for many years, try and call them. It's being proactive. So to get out of this depression and these disorientated thoughts of too many messages going around, your signaling, your mind is over signaling. Simplify things. And return to basics. Regress to things in you that you know will give you a reassurance, that will awaken the happiness in you. And of course, I will work through this. Anxiety, stress, all these things. The alarm is very annoying. It isn't my car. Yesterday I recorded this podcast. I got to 50 minutes and a thunderstorm broke out on the roof where I'm outside and destroyed the whole podcast. And I recorded it again yesterday, and right halfway through my mobile phone just didn't like it and just went off. Distractions. We'll get through this. I know this is interesting. With a panic, with anxiety, with stress, it only will go on for a certain period of time. Your body will compensate. So when you are in panic, anxiety, worry, know that it has a limited shelf time. It cannot run indefinitely because your body will turn it off because it needs to reduce itself, return to a basic state. So with this alarm that's going on in the background, it's taken me a mind, but I know it's running on a clock. It has a limited time to disrupt my podcast. So rather than become angry at it, it's out of my control, I'm going to leave it and be patient. And hopefully we can together be patient, because patience and calmness, and being unexcited can help when something is disrupting where you want to be. There are many things in life which disrupt ourselves. We just want some peace, we want some quiet. We find things going on that try to disrupt our calmness, our need for space, our need for some downtime, some quiet time. Now, we need to find ways where you can have space for yourself, where you're not disrupted, to find and center on yourself. And do car alarms go on for more than 4 minutes? Strange. It's strange. You feel some brain. Can hear rain coming down again. Birds singing. I'm going to pause this recording until the sound has gone, and then we'll start again. The sound of the car alarm has gone. It just briefly, just shortly after I paused this podcast. And now there is heavy rain coming down. I lost my podcast off this topic yesterday because of a thunderstorm which broke. I'm outside, I'm in the Caribbean, and I'm in a tin roof. Let's just see. If it does beat down too much, I'm going to pause again. So, want to find purpose. Little things. If you can't achieve too much because you're feeling depressed and low, doesn't matter. Just do simple things. Make yourself a cup of tea. Make your bed. Call someone. Or just find that space. Just know that you're a special person. We are all special people in the universe. There are miracles going on around you, right where you are. Don't ever feel alone and worried. You'll be okay. For example, how is it that I can send a message on my mobile phone to 3 people? Say I have a person in Australia, a contact in Australia, Argentina, New York, Paris. I can send a text message, and in 1 second, 1.5 seconds, everyone's mobile in these 4 around the planet will receive it in 1.2 seconds, because it's the radio wave which then travels your mobile phone text and message, and your image, photograph, uses light, the electromagnetic spectrum. And that spectrum travels at 186,000 miles a second, which is 222,000 miles a second. So your text message and your image from your mobile phone is traveling at 186,000 miles a second. In my finger, there are billions and billions and billions of atoms going on, working all around your body. You are a miracle, okay? We need to resurrect you. We need to take you out of this depression state. Let's just consider the miracles around us that cost nothing to appreciate. How is it that light, traveling at 106,000 miles a second, can be trapped by plants, and plants can turn light and water into sugar? C6H2O6, the formula for sugar. O for oxygen, H2 comes from water. How? It's remarkable, this rain. This is what stopped my podcast yesterday. Another miracle, eyesight. How is it that we can see colour? We can see things because our eyes are working with this light that's travelling at 186,000 miles a second. 222,000 kilometers a second. How does our eyes can trap this white light wave, turn it into signals, and compute space and time around us, and colour and discern shapes and forms, and we can see this miracle, this wonderful world around us. There are miracles right around you right now. I'm going to pause this podcast again, but we're going to get there. Sometimes life isn't just a run of events. Sometimes there are stops and the starts. But my message is that persevere. Step by step we'll get there. We'll find something that interests us, that motivates us, that excites us enough to take us out of the feeling of despondency, unhope, hopelessness, tiredness. Just quite simply move forward. So we're going to persevere. I'm going to pause this video. Don't go. We will get there. We will get there. Have courage. Well, just briefly, I've looked at the sky and there is a giant rain cloud, but it's passing away. So I'm going to continue in the hope and expectation that the rain will go away. As I was saying, it's really important that stress, anxiety and depression is going on in your body, but it can only last for a certain period of time. What I want you to do is I want you to create the sparks. Create the sparks that's going to generate the flame. The flame will generate the fire, and then that will be an inferno of energy. Okay, not a manic energy, but a glorious, happy energy that you're going to have. We need to make the sparks. So when I talked about making a bed, eating your favorite food, recalling some memories, looking at some old photographs, awaken within yourself things that give you inspiration and the confidence and to appreciate your self-worth for who you are, not what someone else tells you, but who you are. There is the old saying of know thyself. One of the great challenges is to know who we are. We all have a purpose in life. We've got to find out what that is. Don't listen to people saying you can't do that, you shouldn't do this, or people that impose themselves on you, because you are worth more than they are, because you are you, and you are a miracle. So we need to reach a point where we've had enough to react, but the reaction is going to be proactive. We're going to engage. We're going to confront this depression. We're going to work out ways. So little sparks might be go and find somewhere that is a calm place, outdoors. Connect with nature if you can. Awaken some old memories that you have within yourself. Try to consciously calm down, work on your breathing. But when you center yourself, centered in yourself, you will ultimately find calm and peace. You can trust yourself. If you're able to transcend this and move beyond yourself, try to read up about and practice and learn about some of these great religions that exist. Religion means to bind or to fasten yourself on, but not in an obligation or in a sense of slave, to be a slave, servitude. It means it's giving you ways and means you can latch on and you can be pulled out of that hole, of that depressive state, of that anxious state. And all these religions are actually there to find liberation, enlightenment, salvation, if you want, freedom, and to be, happy often. Find contentment. You're not going to find contentment anxious, worried, nervous, tired, depressed. So If you're caught up like a rat or a rodent or a hamster on a wheel, a perpetual cycle, you need to get off that wheel and reset your body clock. It means, metaphorically, you've got a light switch here. It's on, you turn it off. Just keep on turning off, 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 switching off all the things that are possibly triggering you to over-engage, to over-go on, to drive yourself, to driven too much by other people or yourself. Just switch off and return to the basics, back to square one. And we then need to turn on the things that are going to not make us so tired, things that are enjoyable, things that are happiness, things that are, vary what you're doing, your activities. Call people, speak to somebody wherever you are, try to engage, confront and engage yourself in the world around you. So this is called proactivity. Turn off the things that the people don't engage with people that are negative, that are putting you down, but engage with people that are lifting you up, that are good people, the nice people, the people who listen to you, and the people that have time for conversation. So purpose. Now, if you keep on making these sparks, by spark I mean a small activity, keep on working on these sparks. Read a page of a book, read a chapter, read a paragraph of a favorite book of yours, read a sentence, read a phrase, read a word, just read one letter, and then tomorrow read another letter or another word or another page, as much as you can do. Something that's inspiring. It doesn't matter how much you do, but we're on the way, we're on the process. So if that dot represents a purpose and a single completed action, as I call them, what you want to do is, you've got lots of dark black there, keep on putting white dots, positive actions, little things, simple things, oriented towards a purpose. And slowly all this will fill up with white, less black, and end up just a white space, which will represent a place of non-fatigue, non-depression, a happier state of being, a better place, a more calm, relaxed, and happy place. So keep on filling this with white. Little small actions, little small things. Work at it, work at it, work at it. Now, this is a lotus. It's very much used in Dharmic faith. By that I mean the Indian faiths, Indian of the subcontinent. Also in Egypt, the old Egyptian faith. But this represents an awakening of your consciousness. It represents a transcendent consciousness, beyond duality, beyond worried about this and that. I'm going to tell you, but it's actually called neti neti. It's not this, it's not that. In Sanskrit, the language of India, neti neti means not this, it's not that. We're beyond this mechanism of this and that and running like a fox, killing this, killing that, doing. No, we need to transcend that, transcend duality, and let your consciousness flower. How can that consciousness flower? Well, as a lotus, imagine the petals blossoming, blooming, blossoming, petal by petal, petal by petal. You awaken. Imagine yourself in the center of, close your eyes, in the center of a giant, beautiful lotus in a beautiful lake, and one by one the petals are unfolding, and you are manifesting your radiant spirit. Remember, a spirit is not bound by place or time. You're trapped within your body, but your spirit transcends space and time, and consciousness is a part of your spirit. Consciousness is perhaps the body of your spirit. So, of course, the commonly known illusion is the root of the lotus is in the mud. It sees the light, it hears the light. The light can be positive ideas, virtues, teachings of, say, Buddha, of Jesus, of Muhammad, of Shiva or Vishnu, of Mother Earth, of Gaia, of the universe. Go towards the light. Move towards the light. And so the lotus starts in the water, in the mud, grows up, grows up, grows up, until it breaks the top of the water and reaches the blossoms in the air, in the light. Sometimes we don't know where we're going, but we need to have faith and trust. I can't recommend you more than just trying a snippet from the Book of Light, which is commonly called the New Testament, but I call the New Testament the Book of Light.